We're all familiar with the concept of dual wielding, and we know that dual wielding was done in medieval times, for example. And there are some typical northern Italian styles which have this idea of swordsmanship, of course, which have this concept of dual wielding, so using two swords in a duel. And we also have the concept of dual wielding in Japan, for example, with the style of Miyamoto Musashi, which uses both the katana and the wakizashi to dual wield. Now, the same thing happened with the Romans. So, is it possible to dual wield gladiī? Yes, it is. And not only it's possible, but it was done. It's a historical thing. So if you are training and you're practicing, you're thinking, hey, it would be cool to dual wield gladiī. I'm sorry that my second one is wooden. Of course, this would be metal as well. Yes, you can do it. You can practice this discipline and be historically accurate. But the question is, who did it and why? Hello number ones, welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking. So, dual wielding gladius, it's very interesting, I think, as a concept to talk about. So today we're going to have a little bit of a briefer, shorter video, but this is a highly interesting topic. Now, so as I said, it was done, but by who? Now, you shouldn't imagine Roman legionaries going around into battles dual wielding gladiī. That would not work, and that did not happen. Why? Because if you go to war and you don't have a shield, particularly at that time, then you're gonna die because of arrows, okay, and missile fire. So no, Roman legionaries used gladius and scutum, or sometimes other weapons like polearms, but they never did dual wield on a battlefield. But so the sort of combatants that did this were gladiators. As you know, gladiators had different classes in the times of the Romans, and a class dictated the sort of equipment a gladiator was using and also his style of combat. Now we've got many different ones like retiarius, we've got secutor, murmillo, many different kinds of gladiators, but we also have a kind called Dimachaerus. The Dimachaerus, plural Dimachaeri, was exactly that, was a kind of gladiator using two gladiī or two sika. You might have not heard of these before, and the reason is that we don't have a lot of information. The both pictorial and written information on Dimachaeri is rather scant. But we do know that they existed, and there is some information, and we also have pictorial representation of Dimachaeri. So in this video I'm going to tell you all we know about this kind of gladiators. Now, why do I say kind now, and why I'm not using the word class? Because we don't know whether they were a separate class or not. Why not? Because, well, of course, it's a very specific kind of weaponry. So the fact that they're using two swords is completely different from all the other kinds of gladiators. And in fact, we know that they were highly valued for their skills. Because, of course, dual wielding is always a very only highly skilled combatants can dual wield. It's not easy to dual wield at all. It's probably one of the hardest kinds of combat styles you can learn. But we don't know whether they were a class or not, because normally when you have a class of gladiators, that class always has the same kind of equipment. Okay, so for example, a murmillo has got a certain kind of sword, shield. There is a little bit of possible variation, but you know, the helmet of a murmillo is the helmet of a murmillo. Sometimes similar to that of a trax, I'll give you that. But for example, if you look at a secutor, then you can immediately spot a secutor in the arena because of the helmet he's wearing, because of the weaponry he's using. Same for the retiarius, the only kind of gladiator using a net. Okay, now, instead, the pictorial representations of Dimachaeri always have different kinds of equipment. The only common feature being the usage of two swords, either, again, two gladiī, two sika. So sometimes they are completely unarmored, so basically they're only wearing the sort of strap that they use for the sword, and of course the subligaculum, so the loincloth. And other times they're heavily armored with mail with scale armor, visored helmets, greaves, bands for the legs, okay? So you've got lots of different things. The only common features, they don't have a shield and they use two swords. So some people say that, yeah, maybe they were a class of gladiators with more freedom as far as the sort of armor they were wearing, but other people say that they were not a different class of gladiator, but they were a sub-discipline of other gladiator classes, so for example Trax or Murmillo, which would explain the difference in armor. So it's a sub-discipline of different classes of gladiators. We don't know. Both things are plausible. Now, as you probably know, in ancient Rome, you didn't have, like, you know, just let's take this gladiator class and let's take this other gladiator class and let's have them fight. No. It was very specific. Secutor against this against that. Okay, it was all organized. And as far as the Dimachaeri are concerned, normally they either face the Oplomachus or they face another Dimachaerus. Okay, so one Dimachaerus against a Dimachaerus. These are the two possibilities that we know of. So a highly specialized kind of combatant that was there to bring more excitement to the citizens of Rome. As far as the times are concerned, the Dimachaerus is a typical imperial kind of gladiator, as throughout time the sort of gladiatorial games did evolve, okay, as more money was invested into them. And the Dimachaeri are mostly imperial, and they appear from the 2nd to the 4th century. So let me know, what do you think about the idea of fighting with two gladi? Do you think it's an interesting thing? Do you think it's something you would like to try? Or would you rather not renounce the defense of the scutum? So in terms of practicality and combat, the idea is that when you wield two gladi, you're using one gladius for attack and one gladius for defense. So technically, yes, you can attack with both, and I'm sure that there were certain possibilities where this happened, but mostly the style focused on the idea of, I use one gladius to attack, and in the meantime I'm going to block with the other one and attack with this. So one gladius was mostly used for blocking, the other gladius would be used for attacking. Personally, although it sounds interesting and very cool, and I'm sure that it would have been really cool to watch, and some people say that it would be particularly effective against heavily armored opponents. Personally, I would never renounce the protection of a scutum to gain an extra weapon. But what would you do? Do you think it's an interesting style of combat, or would it be something that you would rather watch than do? Also, if you get a chance to try and practice a little bit with two gladi, let me know what you think and what you come up with. What sort of stance would you use for combat? Alright, as I said, this was going to be a little bit of a shorter video. Tomorrow I'm going to have a longer video, and it's going to be about Japanese ashigaru, so the sort of foot soldiers used during Muromachi period, Sengoku Jidai, etc. And it's a very interesting topic. It's actually a lot deeper than you might think, because there are a lot of things to take into consideration. So this is what we're going to do tomorrow, but I'd like to know in the comments if you have a favorite gladiator. If you do, and you have a favorite gladiator class, let me know which one it is in the comments below. Alright everyone, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please remember thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and remember that tomorrow I'm going to upload, because I do upload daily, so I will be seeing you tomorrow for my next daily upload. And remember, the Metatron has spread his wings. Roma invicta!